Okay, we get to my favorite segment of the show, the time where the Beat the Zook gives his predictions on the week. And this week will be the week that I pass Jared in the standings, and he'll be stuttering next week with no explanation of what happened. Jared, let's start with Orem at Lehigh. How about this?
Who would have thought?
2-0 teams on top of the region. Who do you like in this game?
Well, Orem is going to Lehigh. I think Lehigh is going to win this game, personally. I think that Lehigh will play better at home. But this is a toss-up game, Neil. I think this could go either way. I give Lehigh just a slight edge because they're at home. That's the only thing that I can see to distinguish these two teams.
Well, I think Orem has the potential to win. I just don't think that they're going to win either. I like Lehigh.
I'm glad you've learned my favorite word there, Neil. I'm glad you picked that up.
I'm going to use that from now on, okay? If you don't mind. I also like Lehigh in this one. Both teams have the momentum, but this is a toss-up. Basically, I'm taking Lehigh because they're at home.
Same reason. And I'm flabbergasted that both of these teams are where they're at. And I'm really impressed.
That really is the big story.
That is the story.
Nobody would have thought that.
One of these teams is going to be 3-0.
That's incredible.
And that's unbelievable. Okay, let's move on to a girls' game, also on Tuesday. Timpanogos is playing at American Fork. Who do you like?
I'm going to take Timpanogos. I know you're going to probably take American Fork, but I like Timpanogos to bounce back after last week. I still think this is a team that is coming and will come at the end of the year, and I think they'll start to put it together.
Well, I like Timpanogos. I think Timpanogos is probably the second best team in this region overall. I think they're going to lose this game. I think American Fork has found their defense, which is what they lost in a couple of those first games. They found their defense and their rebounding. If they can stay on the boards with Timpanogos, they don't have to win the battle of the boards. They have to stay with them. I think that American Fork wins this game and is able to knock off a very good Timpanogos team.
Okay, now I get to introduce the biggie, the Lone Peak at Pleasant Grove game. This is the biggest prep game of the year. This is for all the marbles in region, well, perceived to be all the marbles.
Except for Spanish Fork now,
I'm not counting them because they're not going to win it, even though they have the potential to. This is the biggie, Jared. Pleasant Grove, Lone Peak. You picked Pleasant Grove at the beginning of the year. I picked Lone Peak.
You did not pick Lone. Oh, to win the region.
To win the region.
You picked Pleasant Grove to win this basketball game originally.
Because
you said that was going to be Lone Peak's first loss.
Yes, and I said that they would both win at home. So I'm asking you. It's not my turn yet. You go first. Who are you taking?
Pleasant Grove wins. Pleasant Grove turns this into a track meet. I don't think Lone Peak slows it down enough. What we were talking about before, Pleasant Grove wins this basketball game.
And I did say, I'm going to go back on what I said. Things have changed. Lone Peak has changed. Lone Peak will win this game this week. Originally, I had this set for their first loss, but since they have lost, Lone Peak is playing dynamite right now.
They've only played one game since they lost to Spanish Fork.
Yeah, I know, and they look darn good, let me tell you.
Okay. I mean, I'll give them credit for that, but both teams have beat Timpanogos.
This team has emerged from that loss. It was the best thing that could have happened to them. They're going to go into Pleasant Grove. They're going to beat the Vikings. They're going to take control of this region, as I predicted, and it's going to start.
It's such a big game. Give me a score.
I like Lone Peak 68-64. They'll be in the mid-60s.
I'm going to say 76-70 for Pleasant Grove. Okay? So we've got the scores on record. We move on now. We're going to look at Friday's games, and we'll start off with the girls' game. Big inter-Provo matchup as the Provo girls go play at Timpview. Neil, who do you like in this one?
I'm going to take Provo. I think that, anytime you get a Provo-Timpview game, boys or girls, it usually is a pretty close game. It's tight, goes down to the wire, but I'm going to take Provo.
I'm going to take Timpview in this game. I think that Timpview is playing better than their record shows. I think they've got the ability to knock off Provo. This is a home game for Timpview. And I like Carly Wade inside. I like Gabrielle Pinniger. I think Timpview wins this basketball game.
Okay, let's go to Payson at Lehigh boys. This is a boys game on Friday. Is that Friday? That's Friday. Payson, I think we both agree at this point, has got to be the region favorite. Who do you like in this game?
I'm going to take the Lions. I think that Lehigh will beat Orem. I think they have enough to do that, but I think Payson's going to come in and play just a little bit better, enough to win this basketball game. I like the Lions.
Well, and as Payson showed against Provo, they went into Provo and won at Provo, which they hardly ever have done in the past. They can win on the road. They're one of the few teams that has a home court advantage. I like Payson to win this game, even though it's at Lehigh and burst Lehigh's bubble.
Well, I think Payson's in good shape. If they can win their next 2 games, that could give them a very big lead, because Provo and Timpview will play each other this weekend, and we'll talk about that in just a second. But first, we've got to talk about American Fork playing at Pleasant Grove. American Fork had a very good run before losing to Spanish Fork. Neil, who do you like?
Oh, the Cavemen let me down last week. I thought they would do it. This was a situation where I'm not sure how good American Fork is right now. I mean, I don't know where they're at mentally, so I'm not going to take them this week. I'm going to take Pleasant Grove.
See, I think Pleasant Grove is going to beat Lone Peak and have a bit of a letdown against American Fork. I think they'll go down early, but then they'll recover in the second half and pull away. Kind of like what they did against Springville. A very close game early on in that matchup. They just kind of blew them out in the third quarter. Similar type game, and Pleasant Grove wins.
You're right. You're partially right, because the letdown's going to be a little bit after they lose to Lone Peak, and then they'll regroup.
Well,
to
we'll
beat
see
this
what happens there.
Okay, our final game is the big one of the week. Provo-Timpview. It's always been one of the classics, one of my most favorite rivalries to cover over the years since I've been covering prep sports. Provo and Timpview, it says it all, Jared. Who do you like?
What an interesting game. This sets up very, very interesting, particularly if Collinsworth is out. Because I think with Collinsworth in the game, this is a 50-50 game, in my opinion, either direction, and he's 50-50 to play in that game. If Collinsworth's in that game, I don't know if Timpview has anybody on the low blocks that can guard a 6'9" Division I guy like Collinsworth.
Yeah, but I mean, I didn't see the Orem game. You did, but who was guarding? Does Orem have a 6'9" guard player to guard him? And did Payson have a 6'9"? How many games has Provo lost where the other team had a big guy to guard?
Well, let's clarify the Orem thing. He was only in the game for 3 minutes, and he scored 5 points during that time period. So the answer to that was no. Orem didn't have anybody to stop him, but who knows what would have happened if he'd stayed in that game. I think that if Collinsworth plays, Provo wins this game. If Collinsworth doesn't play, Timpview wins. That's a tough call to make, because we don't know what Collinsworth's going to do. But I think the Timpview has the players to beat Provo, particularly if Collinsworth's not there. I just think Collinsworth would have a monster game if he's in the lineup.
Well, no doubt that he'll have a monster game, and I'm going to go with Timpview regardless on this game. I've been sticking with the Bulldogs. It's time.
You're giving up on your boys,
no, I'm not. First of all, they're not my boys, and I'm not giving up on Provo. I still think that this is a team that has talent to come back and make, I don't know if I can say a run at the title anymore because of what's gone on. I think they've lost a lot of confidence, but certainly a team that can come in and come back and, maybe take the second, third seed is still possible, but I just like Timpview a little bit better in this game. I think mentally they're a little bit ahead of Provo. And like you said, when you get in these games, they're always 50-50 anyway.
Yeah, this is a toss-up game.
Regardless of – and the other thing about Collinsworth is I think people are finding it easier to guard when he's out on the perimeter. It's different when you're putting a guy and he's at the three-point line as opposed to if you're posting him up. He has not posted up very much this year in the games that I've seen.
I've got to correct you on that one, just because against Orem, the first 3-4 trips, the only times he was in the game, he was on the low blocks the entire time. And that's where he got his points.
That's new then, because in Payson, he was catching the ball up three-point line and driving, and in some of the other games that we've seen, they've used him more outside. Maybe this is a switch, and if they are, then that's a different scenario.
Well, we'll have to see what happens in that one. That's going to be a good game no matter what.